If you're thinking about starting a business, you're probably asking yourself, when do I need to speak to an attorney? What do I need to speak to an attorney about? And how much is this going to cost me? These are very typical questions. You're not the first to ask. You won't be the last. Practically speaking, there are some companies that will go through their entire life cycle and they will never have to speak to an attorney. Realistically, these are incredibly rare, very few and far between. You need to go ahead and plan on speaking to an attorney as soon as possible before you get started, just in case anything comes up. What you'll typically need an attorney for is you'll need them to help set up your legal documentation. You'll need them to help protect any intellectual property that you might have. You'll also need them to help advise you on how to deal with investors and partners. And also, generally, if your business is operating in a legal environment that has high regulatory schemes or anything like that. Practically speaking, if you're going to be a small one-man operation, you're not going to be doing a whole lot of revenue, there's a good possibility that you're never going to have to speak to an attorney. You'd never have to hire an attorney. But if you're on the other end of the scale and you have a business that's product-based, maybe you need to seek a patent, maybe you need to get investors, it's very easy to rack up a $25,000 to $50,000 legal bill before you ever sell a product. So in order to figure out which end of that scale that you fall on, just go ahead and speak to an attorney ahead of time. What I get asked a lot is, how much is it going to cost me to retain an attorney? And I'll give you the typical lawyer answer. It depends. For some businesses, you can get out and never actually have to speak to an attorney. You might have to have an attorney help you draft some legal documents in order to get your business incorporated, and that might cost anywhere between $500 to $1,500. That's the very, very low end. On the high end, if you are a product-based business, you need to seek out a patent, solicit investors. There's a lot of regulatory schemes that are involved in that, so you could easily look at a $25,000 to $50,000 legal bill before you ever sell a product. So it's important to budget for that before you ever go in. Now, practically speaking, most businesses are going to fall somewhere between about $2,000 and about $8,000 in legal expenses for the first 2 years. And that's not all in a lump sum. That typically involves several things on an ongoing basis. So it's important to know ahead of time, where you're going to fall in that kind of sweet spot, if you're going to fall below it. Because keep in mind, there are some folks that will spend less than $2,000. There are some folks that will spend significantly more than $8,000. But practically speaking, most businesses will fall somewhere in that range. I know that's a wide range, but that's practically where it is, and it just really depends on the type of business. Now, most good business attorneys will offer a free initial consult or a reduced price consultation. I highly recommend taking somebody up on that. It gives you the opportunity to sit down with an attorney, discuss what issues that you're facing, address any legal concerns that you might have, such as regulatory environment, if an idea is even protectable under an intellectual property scheme. But also that attorney will help budget what you're going to have to do moving forward. So it might not be just that you have you've got to get an LLC set up and then you maybe have a partner, but you might also have to deal with getting a license through the state that requires a testing scheme. There's other things that get involved in that can change what the situation that you're looking at. But like I said, typically most businesses will fall between that $2,000 and $8,000 number, with most businesses falling in about the $5,000 to $7,500 range, a little bit on the higher end of that scale, just to make sure that you get everything taken care of. Now, when should you speak to an attorney? Finally, like I said, I highly recommend going ahead and taking up an attorney on an initial consultation just to figure it out. We are professional risk managers. That's our job. So we can sit down and tell you, listen, you're going to be entering in a field that's relatively risky. It's highly competitive. You should also be aware that you're going to have to seek out intellectual property protection, get investors. We can tell you on the front end what risks you might face. Practically speaking, what I do on a day-to-day basis is I typically talk more people out of starting a business because they realize they didn't know when they were going in about how much was going to be involved in starting their business. So that when we actually sit down and start talking about it, they say, this is not necessarily what I was interested in. And speaking for a half hour to an hour, I do free half-hour initial consults, but that might be the cheapest $100 that they've ever spent to go and speak for another half hour just about their business, instead of losing potentially thousands of dollars on a business that they had no idea what they were getting into. So to wrap up, kind of think about it this way. Go and speak to an attorney ahead of time. Most businesses have, or most attorneys have, a half-hour initial consult or some type of reduced fee consult. Just go sit down with an attorney, figure out where you stand. They will also help you with the budget. The budget should fall somewhere, like I said, between that $2,000 and $8,000 number. If it's significantly below or significantly above that, probably something that you need to seek a second opinion on, frankly. Then after that, be sure, because what we talk about is confidential. We are supposed to be a risk manager and an advisor. Feel free to talk to us about something that may be a sensitive issue. It's very important for you to be able to ask all the questions that you want to be able to ask in a confidential setting, and that's what an attorney is for. So we're here to have that information confidentially and to be able to share advice with you in that confidential exchange. So go ahead and speak to an attorney, figure out what it is that you are facing, and figure out if it's worthwhile to continue doing it. And then once you're ready to get started, you'll know kind of the lay of the landscape. Again, this is Tripp Watson from the Watson Firm. We are the Entrepreneurs Law Firm based in Birmingham, Alabama, and we'll see you next time.